there is, interestingly, some considerable amount of scientific evidence on the psychological side of the street now that supports exactly that claim. And one of the amazing things that we have happening when we take these great contemplative practices and look at the kind of scientific research that the modern world has brought to the issue, you can actually make some very, very positive statements about this. It used to be, before some of this research had taken place, that something like Father Thomas is saying could be branded by non-believers, let's say, as just wishful thinking or just claims with no evidence whatsoever. Now, we know that that's just not true anymore. And that's one of the really exciting things about taking an integral approach to spirituality. I'll give you just one or two very quick examples. We're talking about the stages of growth and development that men and women tend to go through. And although there are many different ways to talk about it, we've been using a simple one that Gene Gebser first introduced, where the stages are going from archaic to magic to mythic to rational to pluralistic to integral and super integral. And at these higher stages, although you can have peak experiences of oneness with reality at any of these stages, it becomes a permanent realization at the very highest stages. So not merely a temporary state, but a permanent trait. Now, it just so happens that if you take adult human beings who have maybe moved up from, magic is very common up to about age 3 or 4, and then the mythic period begins and runs through usually early adolescence. At the beginning of adolescence, most men and women move into rational orientation, and then young adulthood, they can move into pluralistic. It's very, very hard to take individuals 25 years or more, roughly, and get them to move vertically through some of these stages of development. It's not impossible, it's just really hard. And you can actually take people that are doing psychoanalysis, that are doing hatha yoga or physical exercise, people are doing various types of Gestalt therapy, and you measure to see whether there are a lot of positive things that happen from doing those. But if you measure, did it help them move vertically through any of these stages? And the answer is no. And there's a lot of research that's been done on this. And you're looking at moral stages of development, cognitive stages of development, interpersonal stages of development, and so on. On average, if you take somebody who's doing contemplative practice at least once or twice a day over about a 4-year period, on average it will move them almost 2 full stages. That's simply unheard of. And it's an extraordinarily powerful psychotechnology of transformation, contemplative practice. And there's probably a lot of reasons for it, but one of the simplest is, as you look inside, as you just witness the operation of the mind, as you get quiet and allow the presence of God, if you do witnessing awareness, any of the forms of meditation in first, second, or third person, your mind itself starts to become an object of the witness. And the witness is the divine in you. It's that ray of the divine that no matter how hard you have contracted, you can't squeeze out. That's the unavoidable part of spirit. And that part is not hard to attain. It is impossible to avoid. It's the witness in you right now that's hearing and seeing everything that's going on. That is a ray of the divine. It is pure spirit in you, your own transcendental self. And as you rest in the contemplative practice, you're in a sense strengthening that muscle, transcendental weightlifting. And you don't get a metaphysical hernia, but you do want to try to. So that practice, again, now we're at least beginning to get a little bit of a handle on it, and you can actually make some of these claims. The contemplative practice helps move you through some of these stages. Now you can say all the many other things it does, and you can couch it in theological terms or metaphysical terms or psychological terms. But the evidence is it helps you grow through these higher and deeper stages of your own unfolding. And these stages, you can think of them as many different ways, but they are, in a sense, stages of nearness to the divine presence. And contemplation helps move you in that direction. So this, again, is a very exciting time because we can start to track this. And it starts to seem a little bit impersonal and dry and scientific only because it is. But that's what the modern world likes to hear. And the thing is, we can deliver it to them. It's extremely exciting stuff. So, reflect on that, or shall we invite our... That's pretty exciting, though, don't you think?
Well, I was going to add a little...
Yeah, that's what... I got a suspicion they're here to hear what you might have to say.
The contemplative practices of themselves, I think, make one vulnerable to the unconscious, so that the undigested emotional material of a lifetime, the traumas that we couldn't face as children and repressed into the unconscious, which is then stored apparently in the body and nervous system, are still lingering there with their energy and influencing our decisions and attitudes towards life, but chiefly reinforcing the separate self-sense and the ego and its projects, which are opposed to contemplation. And so, but the problem is that contemplation by itself is not enough. It opens the unconscious in a way that is a contribution to this process. But we also have to embrace daily life and to bring to it this sense of responsibility to the transformative process in which we are prepared to see our mixed motivation, in which we seek self even in good deeds rather than the pure love of God. And this is what retards the process. And instead of being able to complete it in 4 years, it might take 20, 30, 40, or never. So the self-knowledge then has always been, in the Christian scheme of things at least, the central issue and almost a complementary movement towards divine love is growth in humility, which is the acceptance of the reality about ourselves, our own weakness, limitations, or as A.A. Steps put it, our unmanageable lives. And contemplative prayer will bring you to the same state of feeling that your life as you're living it is unmanageable. So that's a triumph, not a disaster. And it happens through contemplative prayer without the inconveniences of being an alcoholic. It's a more humane procedure.
Although you can do both, and there's a lot to be said for that. It worked for me, I mean.